Hello, it's Book Quote Wednesday and the word is unbelievable. But, unbelievably, see what I did there, that is a word that does not appear in any of my novels, or short stories, or even my non-fiction book on ghostwriting novels. Maybe because I prefer to show, not tell, and I prefer to make it clear that something is unbelievable rather than just say it is. Anyway, I have gone for the next best thing. I have gone for the word disbelief, which is close. In my young adult fantasy story, The Teen, the Witch and the Thief, my teen hero, Ted, struggles with compulsive kleptomania, and here we see it firsthand. He's shop assistant in a bookstore, and the company have all gone out to the pub after work. Only Malcolm, the shop manager, knows about Ted's condition. Just for explanation. He didn't have an orange juice, he had an orange and mango J2O. Malcolm was paying, so Ted didn't try to push his luck and order alcohol. They sat around a table in one corner of the pub, a happy, laughing group in boy-girl order. Now we just need someone to phone up and ask for Malcolm, and the barman can call Malcolm over, Diana commented. Why? Malcolm asked, a fraction of a second before getting it. Because then you'll be called to the bar. Zoe jumped in ahead of him to groans all around. Okay. A termite goes into a pub and asks, is the bartender here? More groans. Come on, Malcolm dear, bar jokes, your turn, Diana said. I only know lawyer jokes, they're not very funny. You know I know you know at least one. She looked at the others. Christmas cracker, she explained in a mock whisper. It cracked him up for hours. Malcolm sighed. A man walks into a bar, he said in a monotone. Ouch. Then, oh dear, Ted's off. Ted couldn't help it. The giggles were heaving up out of him because the joke was so unfunny, it was funny. Zoe and Diana both patted him on the back until it had passed. Your turn, Ted, said Zoe. Ted felt all eyes turn on him. Okay, he ventured. Charles Dickens goes into a bar and asks for a martini. The barman says olive or twist. And as everyone's faces contorted in appreciative pain, he felt he had never been happier. And on that thought, excuse me, Malcolm stood up to get to the men's room, which meant squeezing past Zoe. The other three carried on chatting mercifully with no more jokes until he came back. He had to squeeze past Zoe again, and this time he stumbled a little. One foot knocked her handbag, which was on the floor beside her chair, and the contents spilled out onto the carpet between her feet and Ted's. They both ducked down to pick it all up again with lots of muttered sorries and hang-ons. Ted straightened up with her purse. He could feel the hard, round shapes of coins through the fabric, and the corner of a £10 note stuck out through the clasp. Yours? As he handed it over to Zoe, he couldn't resist a triumphant sideways glance at Malcolm that only Malcolm would notice. Malcolm twitched an impassive eyebrow back at him. Conversation picked up again. Ted shifted in his seat to get more comfortable, and his foot came down on something hidden below the table. It could only be something else from Zoe's bag that she hadn't noticed fall out. Ted's mind seemed to retreat into the back of his head. None of the others saw it, they just saw him continuing to sit and chat and laugh with them. The owner of Ted's body observed himself with increasing disbelief and disgust as he didn't bend down to see what it was. Just pick the thing up, whatever it is, just say it. Oh, this is yours too. Do it! But he didn't, because he wanted it. Ask! Malcolm! Malcolm! Over here! I've told you about this, haven't I? Can't you recognise it? Just ask me. Ted, is there anything you'd like to say? Just ask it. But Malcolm was deaf to telepathic cries for help. He prodded the object with his foot. What was it, anyway? It wasn't large. It was solid and flat. A mystery. I think my shoe's undone, he said, and ducked down beneath the table again. There it was, a powder compact. Ted watched himself quickly undo and retie his lace, and then straighten up again with the compact in his hand. Smooth, flat metal caressed his palm. Why shouldn't he keep it? He knew it wasn't his, but he couldn't scrape up the tiniest bit of motivation to return it. Oh, crap. Ted was able to slip it into his pocket without anyone noticing. If he shifted slightly, then he could feel it there, pressing subtly against his thigh. You're sitting next to Zoe, for Christ's sake, your knees are touching. Doesn't that excite you? It didn't. Nothing mattered except the thing in his pocket. That was his. The group carried on for another 10 minutes or so before it eventually broke up. Ted's face ached from keeping the smile going. Outside the pub, they headed off in different directions, and Zoe and Ted were the last to part company. She gave a cheerful smile, said she would see him tomorrow, and set off without a backwards glance. Her bag was slung over her shoulder. Ted unlocked his bike and rode off in the opposite direction. The spell finally broke halfway down Brown Street. The observing part of Ted's mind suddenly returned to the front of his head, and the self-loathing it brought with it hit him like a physical blow. In one smooth movement he braked to a halt and bellowed with rage and loathing and swung himself off the bike and flung it at the nearest building. Then he punched the stonework hard with both fists until he had broken the skin. "What?" he howled at a passer-by. "What are you looking at?" The man bustled quickly on. Ted sank into a crouch by the wall and buried his face in his knees, groaning, because if he didn't make some kind of noise, he was afraid he would just burst into tears. "She's my friend. She trusts me, and I steal from her, and Malcolm trusts me, and I do it right under his nose. God, why am I so fucking pathetic?" Ted's phone buzzed in his pocket. "Oh, piss off." The name glowing on the screen was St. Ozzy's, and he pressed receive. "Yeah?" he asked dully. A woman's voice spoke to him, managing to be brisk and professional and warm and friendly all at once. After 4 years, the chief doctor at St. Ozzy's had the status of family friend. "Ted, it's Dr. James." "Yeah," Ted mumbled. "Hi." A pause. "Ted, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Ted held the phone away while he rubbed a hand over his face, eyes, nose. "Yeah, never better. How's things?" "Not good at this end, I'm afraid. Robert is having, well, one of those days." Ted shut his eyes and groaned quietly. This was so what he didn't need right now. One of those days happened 2 or 3 times a year. Phantom nightmares would invade Robert's empty head, and he would scream and scream and wouldn't settle until someone sedated him. "Yeah, I know." "Ted, this is an awful liberty, but I wondered, your mother does this sometimes, and it usually helps, but I know she's away. Would you mind staying the night here, just to be a friendly face for him?" It was the tiniest glimmer of light in the dark depths of his world. He was the biggest, saddest loser on the planet, but there was one small good thing he could do. "Sure, I'll just get my things from home and I'll be right over. Half an hour?" "Fantastic. Ted, you don't have to if you really don't want to, but I really do want." Ted's spirits were lifting higher by the minute. He stood up with the phone still pressed to his face. With the other hand, he picked the bike up and set it straight on the road. He would get his stuff and send a text to his mum to let her know where he was and do this good thing. "No, I really do. See you. Yes, half an hour. Fine. Bye." What Ted doesn't know is that the thief who engineered Ted's condition is about to spring his trap, and we will learn why he made Ted what he is. Remember, you can buy my books at www.benjeeps.com. See you next time.